there, humans. Welcome to another episode of Trigger Point Yin. I'm Meg Kokovai, and I'll be leading you through your practice today. We are going to be working on Glute Minimus and the TFL. We will need a lacrosse ball, a bolster or pillow, and probably a blanket, mostly just to keep yourself more comfortable. If you don't have the pillow or the blanket, it's all right, but it definitely is good to have. Before we get into it, let's settle in and get more present in our bodies. So you can come to a comfortable seat, whether that's cross-legged or kneeling or sitting in a chair. Just make sure that you're stable and you're able to hold your spine nice and long. You can rest your hands down on your legs and start to breathe normally, paying attention to the rhythm of your breath. And it might be awkward or seem uncomfortable to pay attention to your breath. It might seem like you suddenly don't remember how to breathe, or it becomes this effort. And that is completely normal. When we do something all the time subconsciously and then bring it into our consciousness, it can seem very awkward and strange. So give it a few rounds, give your breath a few cycles to settle in and focus more on what it feels like than how exactly you're doing it. It doesn't matter what the rhythm is, how deep it is, at least not yet. You're just trying to pick up on sensation and get in touch more with what is happening subtly in your body. So you can heavy your lower body, let your tailbone anchor down. And grow your spine up out of your hips. Support the back of your heart with your shoulder blades, so the shoulder blades can be strong on your back, and lower your shoulders out of your ears, letting your arms be heavy, your hands be relaxed, keeping a natural curl in your fingers. And soften your neck, soften your face, letting all of those muscles relax, taking out any expression. You don't need to hold any face here. And let your eyes relax closed, or set your gaze gently out in front of you. We'll start to even out the breath cycle, getting your inhale even with your exhale. So exhale all of your air. Inhale through your nose for 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause at the top, retaining your breath. 2, 1. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause at the bottom, feeling yourself empty. 2, 1. Inhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale and keep that going. Just inhale, pause, exhale, pause, and you can shorten or lengthen the count so it can be comfortable for you. And as you settle into your breath, notice if there is anything happening for you mentally that is drawing you out of your practice. Anything from your day, from your life that is popping up mentally that's pulling you out of your body. We spend a lot of time up in our heads dealing with our life, dealing with our day, and most of our life is happening subconsciously. There's a lot of processing happening in our head that we're not even aware of. And you might be have the experience of driving in your car and suddenly you arrive at your destination and you're like, how did I even get here? That is a sign that you have been up in your head paying attention to anxiety or planning or fantasy and not been fully with what you're doing. Your eyes are obviously still working and you're reactions are still happening. You've made it there safely on your drive in this scenario. But mentally you've been checked out. And a big part of this practice is not checking out, is staying fully present, fully with it, and using your breath as a tool to keep you here. So whenever you're practicing trigger point, whenever you're in a yin posture, you can come back to this breath cycle or some other counted regular breath cycle pranayama practice to keep you here mentally. And know that you have given yourself this time for therapy. You've given yourself this time for self-care. So you don't need to be dealing with the rest of your life. That will all still be there whenever you're done. So you can keep that breath cycle going or come back to a natural breath. And we're going to get just a little bit of movement before we get into our first trigger point move. So you're going to come off any props and you'll place your hands behind you and stamp your feet onto the ground a little bit wider than your hips and start to rock your knees back and forth. It might be a small movement at first, but as you start to warm up to the movement, try and bring your knees all the way to the ground on each side. So your feet need to be far enough away from each other so that when the knees come down, you're not stacking one knee on top of your other leg. The knees have enough space to come all the way to the ground. Just a few more times. And then come back through center. Your fingertips are facing your seat and your wrists are right underneath your shoulder. So puff up the chest first, plant your feet hip distance apart, then pick your butt up and squeeze your glutes, altar pose. You can look up at the ceiling or let your head fully fall back. Keep squeezing the glutes. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. One more like that. Inhale. Exhale. Bring your seat back down to the mat. And we'll get into our first trigger point shape. So you're going to need your lacrosse ball. And we're going to start in the TFL, the tensor fascia latae. So this is a stabilizing muscle, and it is on the side of your body. If you find your hip bones, the bony prominence on the front of your body, this ascis, your anterior superior iliac spine, and come just behind it, and then move down maybe an inch, that is where you're going to want the lacrosse ball. So hip bone on the front of your body, moving just behind it, maybe one finger width behind it, and then an inch down from the pointiest point of that hip bone, that is where you want the lacrosse ball. So before we get into it, TFL, stabilizing muscle. If you are a runner, it tends to get really tight. Every step that you take, it's keeping you from falling over in one direction or the other. Whenever you're balancing on one leg, it is stabilizing you in that. And it connects down into your IT band, that cartilaginous band that runs down the side of your leg, and then connects into your knee. So if you've ever experienced runner's knee, that pain in the outside of your knee when you are tight from running, this is actually the muscle that is responsible for it. It has nothing to do with your knee itself being tight. It's upstream from that in the TFL. So to get into this shape, I'm going to demo my right side. So I'm going to, again, find my hip bone, move just behind the hip bone onto the outside of my body, onto that side seam, and then move down about an inch. And then I'm actually going to grab a blanket here to use underneath my head. And it can be a blanket, a pillow, a rolled up towel, whatever it is you have that is available for you. And then I'm going to come into a side lying position. So my knees, as you can see, are curled in this semi-fetal position. Head is on a pillow so that my neck is comfortable, and I am fully on my side here. To put more stretch into this stretch, you can extend the bottom leg. So the side that I'm working on, I'm going to extend that leg. And now this knee is floating off in space. So to make that more comfortable, you can grab a pillow or a bolster or something else you have handy and place the top leg on that. So now I'm in the side lying position, fully stable, don't have to worry about balancing, and I can just relax into the exercise. So once I'm here, I feel this pulling down the outside of my leg, a little bit into my knee, but I feel that even lower than that into my peroneals in the side of my calf, and I feel it even a little bit in the top of my ankle. So you can feel the reference or the radiation of sensation pretty far down the path in a pattern of tension. So once you get here, give yourself a body scan, starting down at the soles of your feet, making sure those are relaxed, letting that top leg be fully relaxed like it could fall right off your body, bringing your attention through your hips, up into your belly, letting that soften, and coming back to that full deep breath, and try and breathe down into your belly. So notice if the breath is just rising and falling in your chest, or if it's rising and falling all the way down in your belly, and try and get that second type of breath, that diaphragmatic breath. And make sure your head is supported, that you're not straining in your neck and your face is fully relaxed. You can hang out here for as long as you like before coming out of it and coming over into the other side. All right, so I like to do trigger point and a yin, a trigger point and a yin stretch. So we'll get into a stretch before we move into glute minimus. So obviously you would also do the other side, and you can take the time, pause the video to do that. So we're going to come back to that shape that we started with when we were rocking the knees back and forth. But this time, to stretch the right side, you're going to have both knees fall over to the left. And then you're going to take your left ankle, cross it over the right knee. So this knee is now pinned down to the ground. And then your hands are pressing into the ground behind you, but you'll bend your right elbow and look over your right shoulder. And breathe into that stretch, breathe into that twist. Keep that breath practice going. And when you're ready, you can uncross your ankle, come back through center, and of course, come over into the other side. You'll cross your right ankle over your left knee, then look over your left shoulder. You can hang out there for as long as you like, but I'm going to go right into the glute minimus trigger point. So glute minimus, it's in the same general area as the TFL, but it's going to be slightly farther back, slightly more posterior. So again, using your hip bone as the bony prominence, the bony landmark, you can find that hip bone and then roll straight back to that as if there was a line cutting right down the side of your body. So if you have a seam on your pants that is running perfectly down the side of your leg, that is where you're going to want the lacrosse ball. So lining up with the hip bone, rolling straight back until that midline of your side body, that is where you want the lacrosse ball. So you can set up for it basically in the same way that you would TFL. You can have a blanket or a pillow for underneath your head, and then I actually like to have a bolster behind me for this one. So the bolster is really snuggled up right against my back so that I can lean against it. My legs will be together, not perfectly straight, although they could be. And I'm leaning back onto that bolster. So that is keeping me stable. And as you settle into this one, make sure that you're not squeezing your glutes, that you're not lifting your top leg or pressing your bottom leg down into the mat. Let all of that relax. You can let your arms relax, shoulders relax. Everything should be soft. And glute medius, you have a little bit more width and length to work with as far as where the lacrosse ball is placed. So if you're not feeling that much sensation, you can roll it a little bit more posterior, a little bit more towards the back side of your body, and you'll still be in glute medius. You can also roll it a half an inch up, a half an inch down from that center point of the hip bone, half an inch towards the feet, half an inch towards the head, and you'll still be in glute medius. So let it be an exploration. Move into sensation. So if you're not feeling anything, try something different, right? You're not just laying here for no reason. You want to be moving into sensation and staying in a place that is intense but breathable. That is how you're going to find the most relief. So you can hang out here until things soften, until you feel a release. Again, that is going from intense sensation to no sensation, or sharp sensation to dull sensation, or feeling a softening of your muscle, or having an emotional release. And once you get that, you can come out of it. And then we'll take one more stretch, one more variation of a stretch to that outer hip and glute medius. So for this one, you'll actually stand up, and having blocks underneath your hands if you can't touch the ground in a forward fold will be helpful. So having your hands on blocks to stretch the right side, you're going to bring the right leg behind the left and put more pressure into the right foot. So the left foot is really just here for stabilization. More pressure into the right foot, and the pinky toes should be as close together as possible. And once you have that, you can fold forward. Again, hands can be on blocks if you don't come all the way down. You can also just dangle the arms if that feels good. Let the head and neck fully relax, let gravity do the work. Keeping pressure in the right foot. And whenever you're ready, you can switch the cross of your feet. So right foot can then come in front, pinky toes will snuggle in close to each other, being on the same plane, and you'll fold forward. And when your left leg is in the back, then more pressure will be in the left foot. All right, and when you're ready to come out of it, you can come back down onto the ground or onto your mat, wherever you are. And I do suggest laying down flat for a minute or two, flat on your back, anatomical shape. That would be belly up, arms down by your sides, palms facing the ceiling, and just laying there in a symmetrical anatomical position to check in with your body and relax for a minute or 10 to 15 breaths. All right, well, I hope that offered you some relief, and until next time, I hope you can let something go.